When I was a junior in high school on the football team, I was going to quit. I was overmatched, ill conditioned. I remember one night lying in my bed, making up my mind. I'm going to quit the team and go in and tell the coach the next day. I remember waking up feeling so nervous and being nervous all during practice. And then after practice, going into my coach's office, Coach Tom Zecklin, Samarin Mustangs, and saying, "Coach, I'm going to quit the team." Coach Zecklin said, "All right, you can quit, but once you start quitting, it just gets easier every time. Why don't you go home and think about it, sleep on it, and if you still want to quit the next day, okay, quit." I went home and I slept on it and I heard him. And in that moment, I made a decision about the kind of person I wanted to be, and someone who hangs in there, someone who is not a quitter, someone who gives it everything he has, somebody who never ever surrenders became a significant part of my identity. But I've started to think about the other side of that. I've also come to believe that surrendering can mean not just giving up, but giving over, not giving up, just giving over, just letting go, taking my hands off the wheel and my paddle out of the water. I want to come back one more time to talk about the National because I've been thinking about my experience there really ever since I came back. And I went loaded for bear. I had some big ideas. I was looking for a 1993 Topps Chrome Refractor Bonds. That was my number 2 card I was looking for. My number 1 was that 1952 Topps Willie Mays. Spent 4 days on the show floor, and it was incredibly clarifying. It was a reflective time where I just got so clear that not only am I not interested in most cards, I actively disdain most cards. Not just ultra modern, not just modern, but even like vintage. It's just like, they don't want them, which is excellent. Knowing what I don't want helps me to figure out what it is I do want. There's a clarifying time for me. I just, like I've said before, want fewer and fewer. And that 52 Mays absolutely had been on my list. I first had the inspiration to do a Willie Mays run last summer, 2022. I wanted to do a whole Mays run, Topps, Bowman, the Fleer, some of the All-Stars, never the last card, 73 New York Mets. No interest. I'll never own that card. And I set about it, and it was fun, and then it started to feel like a job. And I've said before, and I'll say it to you now, a hobby is something done regularly in one's leisure time for pleasure. And it started to feel like this duty, this responsibility. I was always searching auction sites, looking for examples of cards, dutifully accumulating one after another. I got the big one, the 51 Mays last summer, picked up a lot of the cards from the 50s, the 60s are not such a big deal, and was getting there slowly, 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 and then it started to feel heavy, kind of like a burden. I said, "You know what? Like, I feel like I'm buying these cards out of some sense of obligation." And so I paused, and eventually I deleted all my saved searches, which is the first nice step. First, you stop checking those saved searches. That's the first indication you're done with that card. You stop checking that saved search, and then you delete it all together. And I never looked back, with the exception of one of them. That 52 Topps Mays was just like a whole white whale out there. I couldn't let it go. And every time I would tell myself I didn't want it, I would feel something about it. I would feel that my collection would be missing a very much of a key card, 1952 Topps Willie Mays. It's a beautiful card. First year of Topps, that rich purple. And I've looked at hundreds and hundreds of examples. I know the color, I know the centering, I know the issues, I know the grades, I know one with old labels, I know one with new labels. I feel like I've just seen so many examples. And at the show, what happened was the cards I saw were either ugly or overpriced. So in the price range I was willing to spend, like I wouldn't want this card. I won't look at this card. I wouldn't want to show this to friends. Like this is not the card I want in the price range I'm looking to spend. Or they were just like ridiculous, right? There's been such a movement towards centering that a centered card now has become such a premium. And then as a corollary, another thought, there are cards that are higher grade that are ugly that also dealers are trying to overprice because they have numbers on them 4, 5. Yeah, but it's off center. Right? The corners are sharp. Yeah, but it kind of gives me a little bit of vertigo when I look at your card. I don't care. It's worth $12,000. All right, you can eat your card for all I care. And that was I didn't even ask about those ugly cards, but it was a lot of cards that were either ugly or overpriced. And there were more than a few ornery dealers, and that turns me off. And so I walked around discerning, getting clear that most of the cards I had no interest in acquiring. And then the Willie Mays just seemed like it wasn't meant to be. As I said, I took my hands off my wheel. I took my oar out of the water and I just let go and I surrendered. I didn't give up, didn't hurt, didn't feel like I was quitting. I just let go. I gave over, and not just in word, but in feeling. I reached a feeling where I said, listen, I would love to have this car, but if it's not meant to be, that's also okay. Life goes on. And I surrendered, and a beautiful example showed up on eBay almost instantly. I'm very fortunate to have friends like Matt, 1956 Topps guy, who occasionally will send me a listing. He's like, "Oh, check this one out, a nice centering." He knows what I'm looking for. Matt, if you're listening, thanks for all your support and your guidance and your encouragement. This one came up, and I took a picture of it and I sent it to him, and we sort of speculated on the price, and I kinda looked at it, and before I went to national, I had been selling off a bunch of cards, so we're trying to just, accumulate some capital very much in a space where I'd rather get rid of good cards and acquire a single great card, or sell several great cards to perhaps acquire a transcendent card. And so before the national, I moved a bunch of stuff. Um, I sold a 55 Bowman Mays and a PSA 4. I sold a really nice 66 Koufax in a PSA 7. Um, some wax I had, not vintage wax, ultra modern wax. I just had stumbled upon it. Target when people were paying ridiculous money. I wish I would have sold it when people were like, these cards are worth this. I'll give you $125 for the box. Some I sold, they just stumbled across, but some I kind of held on. Some football cards, I thought would be kind of fun, but I get rid of those too. Sold the 1908 Ogden's tobacco card of Abe Attell, his rookie card. Attell, the bag man, the 1919 Black Sox scandal. Beautiful card. I bought it raw, graded it with SGC, came back a 4.5. What else did I sold? Oh, I sold a 68 Johnny Bench PSA 6 and a PWCCE, top 15%. Sold a gorgeous 69 Namath PSA 6 that the orange was so good you wanted to take a big bite out of this card. That one hurt a little bit. That's a great card. I love when backsides of cards have history. One of my favorite cards, but again, from good to great, from great to transcendent. The backside of that card actually describes the Jets Super Bowl upset of the Colts in Super Bowl 3. So it makes it extra cool, not just gorgeous orange, but as a historic description on the back. I look out of a 71 Clemente in a PSA 7. I keep trading down. The first big card I ever bought was a PSA 8 Clemente early on in my collection. Picked up a 71. I never would have bought that card now. I bought a label and I was able to sell it for a small profit at the time, traded down to a PSA 7, and then I saw a gorgeous PSA 6, and for a while I was carrying doubles of that 71 Topps Clemente. Such an incredible card, top 5 card of the decade. The black border, him framed beautifully, the yellow font pirates beautifully complementing the uniform with the white gray jersey, or the white jersey, I mean, with the black and the yellow. His eyes are just catch your attention. You go to see what he's looking at. He's looking at the barrel of the bat, which is swinging right at the camera. It's an amazing card. As you can tell, I love it. I've had 3 copies of it, in an 8, and a 7, and a 6. I sold off the 7. Then I sent to 5 Sharp Corners a bunch of cards for consignment. Cool cards. 72 Rose, PSA 8, 84 Peyton, PSA 9. Love the 84 Tops. And a few other cards, all good cards, not great cards, not transcendent cards, but cards that had value. You know, this is motivation. All right, I'm going to accumulate some cash. I'm going to make a play on this 52 Mays Sunday morning. I woke up. I made one bid. Took my hands off the wheel, took my oar out of the water, enjoyed a beautiful day. I surrendered. I gave over. That night I went to sleep without even checking to see what the bidding was at. Slept beautifully. Woke up the next morning, went to my phone. PWCC had let me know you won. I won the card. I surrendered, and the card came to me in the grade I wanted, or the grade I could afford, but a nice one. It was a PSA 2, PWCCE, top 15%. Would you like to see it? If you hung with me for 12 minutes, you've earned this. Let's take a look. 1952 Topps Willie Mays. Love that card. It's got that really nice coloring, that nice purple. I love the centering. If you can see that at home, really nice centering left to right, little bit top to the bottom, but doesn't take away from the card. I am so, so unbelievably happy to have this card. Take a look at the back. It's very clean. So amazing. It's great to read the back of these cards. Voted the National League Rookie of the Year in 1951. Willie was only 20 years old when he came up. He broke into pro ball with Trenton in 50 and batted .353. With Minneapolis at the start of the 51 season, Willie hit .477 in 35 games, and the Giants called him up. His first big league hit was a home run. A naturally great fielder, Willie went into the Army in May 1952. Card 261, 1952 Topps Willie Mays. If I'm only going to have a handful of cards, this is going to be one of them. You know, we talk a lot about end users and end collectors in the hobby. I am an end collector of this card. So wonderful and really nice to get to share it with you today. I've really adopted a stars and scrubs approach to collecting cards. It's a lot of occasion, very like once a year, a card like that 52 Mays. And the rest of the time is strictly shallow end. So I picked this one up as a sort of also as an example. On one end, you have that 52 Topps Mays. On another end, you have this 1999. I'm showing the folks at home 1999 Topps Stadium Club Lone Star Signatures Garrison Hurst. It is an unnumbered insert with some incredible pack odds. I'm a big Garrison Hurst fan. I've tried to collect the '90s cards, but every time I go down the rabbit hole, they're amazing. Such a creative period. That second half of the 1990s, amazing, amazing cards in response to overproduction and the hobby going bust. People got creative. It was good for the hobby. But the nostalgia for me is borrowed. It's borrowed nostalgia. It's not my nostalgia. I didn't collect cards during that period. And as much as I appreciate the artistry of the cards, they're not mine. As much as I appreciate serial numbered parallels and rare inserts, it's not my nostalgia. But I do love Garrison Hurst, and dabbling in some of those 90s cards gives me a little entree into the hobby. Let's hold it up again. Let me break this down. Lone Star Signatures was an 11 card insert set. A Lone Star signature card appeared once every 697 packs. 1 in 697 pack odds, 24 packs in a box. It means that for somebody to get a Lone Star signatures, the odds are 1 in every 29 boxes. And to ensure that you would get the Garrison Hearst, you'd have to open 319 boxes of 1990, is 1999, right? Yeah, 1999 Stadium Club football. The ultimate pack odds to get this Garrison Hearst, 1 in 7,656 packs. Perfect example of what I'm calling the stars and scrubs approach to my collecting, taken from my many years as a lover and participant in fantasy sports, especially fantasy baseball. We've got the star, the 52 Willie Mays, and the scrub, the 99 Lone Star signature Garrison Hearst. Lets me have a mail day every now and then. And when it gets down to it, I get some super cool cards. Life is good. Welcome to the Rated Rabbi Sports Card Podcast, where sports cards and pop culture meet the 1984 All-Star Game. I am your host, Rabbi David Spinrad. This is episode 37, the aptly named hobby Surrender. With one away in the bottom of the third inning, Ryan Sandberg steps in against Jack Morris. Beats one into the plate. Carew misses on the tag. Sandberg safe at first. 0-1 pitch to Garvey, who follows Sandberg, and Sandberg is off and running. Really steals second base on Morris. An awesome throw. A throw's at the bag by Lance Parrish. Might have had him. Throws a tiny bit high. Truth be told, though, it's not on Parrish. The stolen base was on Morris. Didn't even bother to check Sandberg. Sandberg on second, a one-man out. And Garvey drills one to left, but Winfield is positioned perfectly at the track. I mean, this was just off the fence for a double. And it's just a long, loud out. 2 away, Sandberg on second, Murphy at the plate. Murphy works a 2-2 pitch, a 3-2 pitch. They note he's the all-time active leading home run hitter among visitors at Candlestick Park with 12. He'd go on to have 25 home runs at Candlestick Park in his career, more than any other stadium other than Fulton County and Veterans Stadium teams and stadiums for which he played. Murphy draws the walk, and up steps Mr. Michael Jack Schmidt. You know, it's easy to take for granted how incredible it was that if you were a baseball fan in the 1970s and the 1980s, we had, what who ESPN has called the number 1 and number 2 all-time best third baseman. I'm referring, of course, to Philly third baseman Mike Schmidt and Royals third baseman George Brett. I can't think of one without the other. To me, they are synonymous in their playing career when they played. Did you know they actually were both drafted 1 pick apart in the 1971 draft? Brett was a shortstop coming out of high school, taking the second round, and 1 pick later. Schmidt, also a shortstop at this time, out of the University of Ohio, a high school kid, a college kid. Schmidt's a little more professionally ready when he's drafted, but my goodness, number 1, number 2 all time. And if you're around my age, we got to see their entire careers. Let's run it down how great these guys were playing simultaneously. Let's check it out. Brett plays 21 seasons, all for Kansas City. Schmidt, 18 years, all for the Phils. George Brett, 13-time All-Star. Mike Schmidt, 12-time All-Star. George Brett, 1980 MVP. If you're watching there at home, that's a picture, that central picture on the screen is a picture of George Brett and Mike Schmidt prior to game one of the 1980 World Series, won, of course, by Philadelphia. Also won the World Series, did Brett, in 1985. Three-time Silver Slugger for the outstanding hitter at his position, won a Gold Glove, won 3 batting titles. To this day, the only player in Major League history to win a title in 3 decades, the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. For his career, George Brett, 857 OPS, 369 on base percentage, 3,145 career hits, and a career WAR of 88.6. Schmidt, as I said, was a 12-time All-Star. He was a 3-time MVP, 80, 81, and 86. Won a World Series right there on your screen, 1980 against the Royals. 6 times Schmidt won the Silver Slugger. This is actually what puts him in my mind, head and shoulders above Brett. A 10-time Gold Glove winner. In fact, the great statistician Bill James said that if Schmidt hit for a higher average, he would be the all-time greatest baseball player. No one less than Bill James said Schmidt would be the all-time greatest if he just hit for a little higher average. That wasn't his game. Schmidt, 8-time home run champion, 4 times led the league in walks, a 908 OPS, a 380 on base percentage, 548 home runs. So, yeah, just a 267 average, but that wasn't his game. Mike Schmidt holds the record for the all-time highest career WAR, wins above replacement, of any baseball player in Major League Baseball history who was drafted and played his whole career with a single team. Talk about striking gold with that draft pick. He was drafted by the legendary Tony Lucadello. Incredible. At one point, he had 52 major leaguers at the when at one time when he had 52 major leaguers in the show at the same time. That's remarkable. Not only did he draft Schmidt, Lucadello also signed Schmidt. He also signed Fergie Jenkins. What were their best years? I'm going to go Schmidt's best year, 1981. Strike season, so the numbers aren't quite what they would be, but let's run those numbers down. That SI cover in the top right is actually 1981. After the strike resumed, you can ended. And baseball resumed. You can see the Brett and Schmidt on the cover. August of 81 says, "Here we go again." Both of them were the reigning MVPs, Schmidt and Brett, after 1980. 1981 was that second MVP for Schmidt. Amazing, amazing season. Let's run down his numbers. 102 games, 354 at-bats, 434 plate appearances. Just that few number of plate appearances, hit 316 with a 435 on base, 644 slug, and a 1.080 OPS, 31 home runs, 91 RBIs, and a Gold Glove. What was Brett's best year? You know it's got to be 1980, the year he flirted with 400, hit 390. What you might not know is actually Brett starts slow in 1980. He's hitting 259 at the end of April. In June, he tears ligaments in his ankle. He actually misses 35 games. You don't think about that. When he comes back on fire, right? Right off the DL, he goes 17 for 29 with 6 walks in his first 7 games back. And then from July 10th through August 17th, or 710 to 817, it's about 5 weeks, hits 473, almost hits 500, only strikes out 3 times in 5 weeks. He's hitting as high as 400. That's the last time he's at 400 is September 17th. Down the stretch, he starts pressing. You're just getting a little bit tired. The games didn't have much meaning. They were playing bottom dwellers like the Mariners, and he dips and ends up, of course, at 390. That's his MVP season. Man, what a year. 1.118 OPS, 664 slug, and a 454 on base percentage. My goodness. Brett and Schmidt. It's fun to remember how incredible these guys are. Let's look at some cards, shall we? All right. On the screen, we've got, of course, the iconic rookie card of George Brett, bottom left. The somewhat less iconic card of Mike Schmidt. Schmidt, the better player. Brett's rookie, more collectible, quite a bit more expensive. Perhaps it's because it's one of the coolest cards of the decade, right up there, another top 5 of the decade card for me. Perhaps because Schmidt is sharing the card with Ron Say and John Hilton, but still 2 awesome 1970s cards. I want to take a look at who that John Hilton was in just a second. But up on the screen, I've also got my 2 personal favorite cards from their careers. 1978, George Brett. I'm going to show you my copy on the screen as well. Let's get that up there. Awesome card. Just golden haired blonde portrait, big old chaw in the cheek. Man, love this card. My example, what's great is when a card is like just you've had since you were a kid and kind of thrash, you can like, I'm gonna handle a baseball card because they're meant to be held. Uh has a crease in it, corners are all janked up, off center. This was a card that I must have just held a million times. All-star shield in the corner. Such a great card. 1978 George Brett. And the other card, my favorite Mike Schmidt card on the screen. Let me show you again. My own personal copy. Another one that was pack pulled age 9. Little Dave Spinrad, Nevada, California. 1980 Mike Schmidt. I love the all-star banner that goes across the top of these. Such a cool design. That's just like Schmidt balling. He's going to win his first MVP that year in BP. That great, what is that, maroon he's wearing? Got the jacket on, the baseball hat, batting stance in the cage before the game, bushy mustache, kind of got a little Magnum PI in him. Never thought about that. This example that I'm showing you right now on the little screen, my 1980 Mike Schmidt. So Camp Mendocino, boys club I went to when I was a kid, Camp Mendocino. And I remember taking all my 80 Topps all-stars with me in a stack and bringing them with me. And, kind of thing, there were no penny sleeves back then. You just like took them with you, put them rubber band, put them in your pocket. And I remember brought them all with me. This 2-week summer camp up in the Camp Mendocino and the forest between Willits and Fort Bragg. And I brought my all-star cards, and all of them, you can't really see it on the camera. All of them are super rubbed because I just must have looked at them a million times. I love these examples. To me, this is just like PSA awesome. Not for trade, not for sale. Oh, Camp Mendocino. Camp Mendocino. I got robbed at Camp Mendocino. I got jacked on the bus ride home. I remember this kid named Ali. I was in the back of the bus. I had $5 left for my canteen money, and I had my money in an envelope, little 9-year-old me, and this kid snatched my envelope out of my hand. I know he did it, but like it was just me, and he was older, and he had his friends around. And all right, Ali, take the $5, buy yourself something nice. Who's this other guy on the 73 rookie third baseman, along with Mike Schmidt and Ron Say? May his memory be for a curse. Papa. It's John Hilton. Who the heck is John Hilton? You say. You always look at this guy, right? John Hilton is also known as Dave Hilton, as it turns out. Plays 4 years for San Diego, 72, 73, 74, 75. Gets most of his action 73 and 74. Drafted high, never pans out after 75. Ends up going and playing in Japan. Plays for the Yakult Swallows and the Hanshin Tigers. You never know. Like John Hilton, who is this guy? Oh yeah, a little name change. If you're with me right now on the screen, that's his 1974 Topps, my favorite design of the decade. Besides the name change, if you look at it, it says Washington National League. Fans know that before the season, Padres were considering leaving. People thought they were going to end up going from San Diego to Washington. Topps jumps the gun early printings, the cards, instead of saying San Diego, they say Washington. There's a Willie McCovey card in this set. Looks like this. This one is, of course, Jave, don't call me John Hilton. All right. Ah, done a lot of talking here. I want to circle back on a topic we talked about last week. We were talking about Rod Beck. I kind of felt like I rushed past Rod Beck. Just one of those guys who was like a heart of gold, gruff outside, no pretenses, kind guy, like to, sit in the clubhouse and drink a beer and smoke a cigarette and do crosswords and ride the stationary bike real slow. Beloved by teammates, a three-time All-Star. Career highlights had to be 93 with the Giants and 98 with the Cubs. Plays in addition playing for the Giants, the Cubs, of course, plays for Boston. Has an elbow injury, ends up with San Diego. Not a all-time great guy. The 34th all-time in career saves is nothing to sniff at. 286 career saves. You want an idea of the other guys who are in that general vicinity of 286? Armando Benitez, Jose Valverde, Mark Melanson. Guys made all-star games, but not amazing. But Beck was cool. Beck was generous. Beck gave, particularly to the AIDS cause, really helping to destigmatize that in Major League Baseball. Gave to cancer cure causes. But as his career wore on and wound down and he was out of baseball, he really developed, unfortunately, a real nasty drug habit. Got addicted to cocaine, unfortunately, heroin as well. And he dies. He dies in his Phoenix home in 2007. And last week, you might remember, I'm going to bring it up again. I showed this picture taken from the scene of his death. It's a porcelain plate, round, flat plate in the shape of a baseball with red stitches. There's a rolled up dollar bill, and there is a baseball card on the plate. Presumably, he used it to chop up his cocaine or whatever that white substance is on the plate next to the bill. And I did a little dive, a little research, and I saw that's a 1993 Pinnacle Rod Beck, and just made me wonder what it was like for him to be basically chopping lines and holding this 93 Pinnacle card of himself when, I mean, not to be corny and cliche, to me, that's the pinnacle of his career. Sorry, Cubs fans. I know 1998 was exciting, but 93 was like maybe not the pinnacle, but the peak of the ascent, right? You still feel like there's more in front of you. He's holding that card, a scant, oh my God, what are we doing? 14 years later, and he's chopping lines with it. So I actually went and got the card, showing it on my screen right here. Let me take it out of its sleeve because it's a common. Only cost $1. Get a little look at it. In fact, I'm going to go full look. I want you to see it without the drug picture. There it is, 1993. Pinnacle black border Rod Beck. Show you the back side, the side that's in the photograph. Just such a sweet face, gentle giant. Horseshoe mustache, the mullet. Following a rigorous off-season training regimen that helped him shed 15 pounds, Rod emerged as one of the NL's most effective relievers in 1992. An aggressive, go-after-him style pitcher with a compact motion and a fastball that tails in to right-handed hitters. Rod held opponents to a 190 batting average over 65 appearances and had 17 saves in 23 opportunities. I want to end it there, right? I'm going to leave the Rod Beck story on a higher note. I didn't like the way I ended it last time. I want to come back. I want to show you that card, maybe by reading the back of the card instead of it being the memory of it being on a plate of of cocaine. Maybe the memory can be Rod Beck on the way up. Rod Beck with the best days ahead of him. Next week is Yom Kippur, Sunday night and Monday. I'm going to have my hands and my heart and soul full with the holiest day of the year. I don't think I'll do a show next Monday, but you never know what might happen. More than likely, I'll see you again in 2 weeks. Until we meet again, first of all, thank you so much for being a part of this experience. Uh, Let me know you're out there. I'd love to just check in and reminisce. Let me know you're out there. If you like this, tell a friend, leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff that I'm kind of ambivalent about that more than anything else. Until we meet again, may you enjoy and may you be blessed with health and long life. So long for now.